Hello, my friends, and happy Monday to you all. Welcome to the Truthcast here on this Monday, December 8th. I am David Snedeker, and I will be your host for the next 2 hours as we delve into what's going on in the world, the things that, President Trump is telling us. On the surface, and also the things that he's telling us below the surface, the things that people are pushing back against as we practice putting America first, and the people that are in support of this president. There are criticisms of this president, and some are by those that we expect, and some are by those who we don't necessarily expect. And it's the ones that we expect that aren't moving the needle at all, because we expect them to, oppose everything DJT, and it's the ones that have secured our eyes and ears, and have garnered support through MAGA, through wanting to get rid of the horrible atrocities that were committed by the Biden administration. And so we support those people, we support them, and then we see them turn on President Trump. And that is something that is expected now, depending on, who we're talking about. Many people who never lost an account, and also the fact that they're coming out against him. Many are exposing themselves as not understanding the Q operation, which here on this channel we understand, because we've spent an inordinate amount of time studying Q and understanding that there's a plan behind all of this madness. And it's very exciting to watch this unfold, and to start to see so many of the people that we had hoped would awaken are awakening, and many that are still awakening. So we welcome them all as we navigate this this maze that we find ourselves in, and this show that is there for the exposure of the deep state, there for the exposure of the things that we hold dear, possibly being lost to, a woke culture that has risen in this country and around the world. So a couple things. One, President Trump had a roundtable today, and that was at the White House. And he talked about the farm aid, where he's going to be taking some of the money that are coming in from the tariffs, and he's going to be sharing the $12 billion with the farmers, which is the backbone of our very nation. And so it's very important that we see these actions. And it's also very important that when the people that are critical of him are not even bringing up the positives of his actions. So let me play a short video for you here, because to me, this was such a huge, huge thing, because when you think about, the people that are really being harmed in this show, um, small businesses, you know, uh, middle class families, lower class families, not lower class, but you know what I mean. Um, and but the farmers feed us, and the farmers, that's the backbone of our country. And what we've seen with our steel manufacturing plants, we lost those to NAFTA and other failed policies. The automobile manufacturing industry, we lost to failed policies and NAFTA. Um, and and we've seen what has happened to those cities. And if we lose that with our farmers, then we are dependent on other nations for our sustenance. So the first step is the taking care of the farmers. And let me just play that for you now. And here we go.
Delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election, you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real numbers, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI. So what we're doing is we're taking a relatively small portion of that, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance. And we love our farmers. And as you know, the farmers like me, because, based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money, Meryl. What do you think? Peanuts for you, though, right? Peanuts. She's a farmer of rice. This relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices for American families.
So again, a focus on lowering food prices. Also, I want to just shout out to Spiritual Street Fighter, another beautiful piece of artwork. She's had this for a while, but reposted it today. So I wanted to share that all with you. 0017. Love it. Got a dive for you that Kevin called me with today, which is awesome. That I'll get to here in a little bit. And so that's certainly part. Okay, I just lost my monitor. There we go. It's back. All right. So that's a part of taking care of our farmers, right? But there are a couple things that I do. I either buy organic, which is very expensive. It's like next to daughter's education, the most expensive thing that we do, probably. Well, not necessarily, but you know what I mean, in terms of just high priced quality things. And so so that's going to be huge, that it will lower our prices. But also I have a lot of issues with our American farmers, and mainly it's the pesticides that they use. So not only is President Trump giving them money, but then we have RFK Jr. talking about these things.
There's a chemical now, the second most A used chemical in this country, a pesticide in this country, is atrazine. It's banned in Europe, banned all over the world, but we use it here. It's in 63% of our drinking water. There's a famous African-American scientist named Tyler Hayes, who's at the University of Berkeley. He did a famous experiment that anybody can look up on the internet. He put 70 African water frogs in an aquarium. He put atrazine in the water of that aquarium that was less than EPA's level. So it's less than the levels we have in 63% of our water supply. 60 of those frogs became sterile. They're all male frogs. 60 became sterile. 10% of those frogs turned female, and they were able to produce fertile eggs. So it changed their sex. And of course, normally, when you see something like that in an animal model, the first thing you want to do is test it in a mammalian model and then a human model. Those tests were never done.
Never done for human beings, right? But why not? Well, for fear probably of the truth coming out about that very thing. And when we think, I'll give you an example. When I listened to NPR again today, dove on the grenade for y'all, listening to NPR, and it had a trans activist, and I think they call themselves transcendent, and they're on campuses and they're speaking out and they're loud and they want to be heard. They want to be respected. And I just got to thinking, I mean, there's just such a huge increase in this ideology, this gender, these gender issues and all of this. What could be behind that? And, you really have to look no further than the thing that is becoming very abundant in our water, that Tyrone Hayes discovered through this experiment. The American biologist and professor of integrative biology at the University of California, Berkeley. He's known for his research in frogs, concluding that the herbicide atrazine is an endocrine disruptor that demasculinizes male frogs, causing them to display female characteristics. He's an advocate for the critical review and regulation of pesticides, as well as other chemicals that may cause adverse health effects. He has presented hundreds of papers, discussions, and seminars on his research conclusion that environmental contaminants have played a major role in the global amphibian decline, right? Because that stuff's getting into the fresh water, it's getting into the ocean, etc., as well as being linked to the many health disparities that occur in minority and low-income populations. His research into atrazine as an endocrine disruptor has been contested by Syngenta, the company that manufactures atrazine. No kidding. And the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority. In 2023, he was elected to the National Academy of Sciences. So, this is a part of the changes that we need to see. And so I hope that MAHA is right alongside this financing, this bailout, if you will, of the farmers by the tariffs. Because, for example, the only pasta I'll buy is Italy. Why? Because this stuff is banned in Italy. And so we're not eating glyphosate. We're not eating atrazine when we're, sitting around a family dinner table, welcoming friends, maybe welcoming family, and poisoning ourselves in the process. So, so at any rate, All right. So let me see. Let me say hi, everybody. Jan Butler, Kansas here. Good to see you, Jan. First one in the house tonight. Greta Luce, second one. Hello, David Sneds, Nita Bells. See everyone at 8. Mount Rushmore in the shadows for now. Hello, Sned family. It was a tough week. Tammy Joe. There's a lot going on. A lot going on. KKY, hello, Dave Gods and Sneds from Nebraska. I would like to know your thoughts on Victor Davis Hanson and Cipher Signal. They are both on YouTube. Both have been very interesting. Mark Victor Davis, or Hanson, I think is who you're asking about. I don't know 4V8 Davis. I don't know what that is, if that's a mistype. I don't know Cipher Signal. So KKY, go Nebraska women's volleyball, #1 Big Ten tournament. Very cool. Very cool. Should have been mods, not gods. Well, sometimes they act very godly, so I'm welcome. Yeah, and Victor Davis, thank you. I like him. As a matter of fact, I have something I may share tonight on him. Smokey Eye, good to see you. Quasi Pete in the house. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for being here. Hunter's in the house. Wendy's in the house. JL Bear, good to see you. Secret Agent Man. Italia, hello. Good to see you. Chivo, happy Monday, Dave and Sned. So great to be in the theater tonight. I got my coat checked and the popcorn is popping. I'm ready for another fantastic show. Thank you, Chivo. Ravens Wings, good to see you. Much love to you, Jabla. What's up? Good stuff. Good stuff. And I lost my monitor again. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, hopefully that won't happen again. And it just did. Let me try something here. Bear with me. Bear with me. Let's see. I gotta switch up here. I've got to get a new connector. That's the problem. They don't last long, it seems. Okay, there we go. I should be fine. Okay. See, I got a smaller screen here and a bigger screen here. That's why I go over there. Let me see. Moonbeam, good to see you. Welcome, everyone. I had fumble issues tonight. You fumbled the Rumble. What's going on with Rumble tonight? Anybody got any feedback on that? So, Motor Yoder's in the house. Thanks for being here. Pretty Woman. Hello, you're wonderful, patriotic Snedheads. Absolutely. I agree. Pilot Mike, good to see you, Mike. And Edward, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for always sharing out to you, all that share out the show. Please tag influencers. Please tag people that you think would benefit by our show. Tommy Renee, good to see you. You're not getting notifications anymore on X. That's good to know. Thank you. Will you check your follow on me and check, Tommy, if the bell is still, clicked, and maybe that they took that off. Awaken Trillium, Stronger Together. I love it. Thank you for that. Horseface in the house. Jan Hasselbush, thanks for sharing out. Maggie, good to see you. Paul Williams, hi, Dave. Always a great show. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Thumbs up, please. Do at the very least put a thumbs up on heart it on X, thumbs up on YouTube and Rumble, please. And D Live. All good. Lacey Bounds, thank you for doing that, Lacey. Jody's not getting notifications anymore too. That's odd. So what I need to do, folks, is I need to buy an add-on to my to our Snedheads, so that it'll send you out notifications when I go live. So I need to need to make that happen. So thank you for that feedback. Let's go flip that switch. I feel you. Gino, good to see you. Happy Monday. All right, my friends. Cat Father B, good to see you. Peggy, good to see you. All good, my friends. Maggot Girl, awesome. Okay, so Mark, good to see you. Welcome. Cindy, good to see you. BV, your show, Dave, is a truth quest. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate that. Deanne, good to see you, my friend. How are you? Okay. So, my friends, let me get into it here a little bit. The Morgan C, I check your sites every night anyway. Good. Awesome. Let's see. I just pray something happens soon, as I'm really tired of it. Feel like Democrats will never be held accountable. Probably not in our court system as it exists now. And that's why it's being exposed. Even, and I'll give you an example. One of the, let me see, I have that, let me see if I think I have that queued up elsewhere right now. Excuse me. Yeah, it's kind of like what's being exposed is very significant right now, and I'll give you an example. Let me take you there. Glad you mentioned that, because it's important that we see this. So the person who is prosecuting the Brian Cole Jr., who is the pipe bomber that planted the pipe bombs the night before January 6th, is being prosecuted by Assistant U.S. Attorney Jocelyn Ballantyne. She previously supervised high-profile J6-related prosecutions, including the seditious conspiracy case against Proud Boys leaders. And so one of the reporters asked President Trump today about her, saying that she is also one of the ones that got one of the J6ers to lie, or asked him to lie, to damage President Trump. And so President Trump said, we're looking into her. We're looking into all of it. So I don't think it's an accident that this is the attorney that is prosecuting the pipe bomber, because this was the attorney that was a part of the demonization of the right over the whole J6 event. So is it going to happen in U.S. courts? No. But every single time that James Comey is let off, what's her name? The one in D.C. I'm getting her mixed up with Fannie Willis right now. Letitia James. As we see these things being, dismissed, as they go to the next level, we're going to see the corruption firsthand. And so President Trump even talked about it today, about how these he can't get any Republican judges to pass in a state that has one Democratic senator or two Democrat senators, because he's Republican. They're just going to deny him. So meanwhile, and it's called a blue law that he's asking Charles Grassley to change. So meanwhile, the Republicans don't act the same way when a Democrat is nominated for a judgeship. And so all of these things, all of these inner workings and the machinations of our legal system have to be exposed, so that we can go forward. And in order to expose them, we need to see them. We need to experience this. All the courts that are giving really low, low sentences for violent crime, but giving, larger sentences for, exposing crime, like, for example, Tina Peters, who is obviously being persecuted for exposing the crimes of election interference in the 2020 election. And so, and I'll take you to that with that subject here. That is so very important. And speaking of which, by the way, this is a little piece on that President Trump reposted today that I want to share with you. And
Tom, I want to get right to this horrific attack in Charlotte. Now, Charlotte's mayor, who has opposed your efforts to crack down with ICE there, put this statement out about this tragedy, saying there are several aspects of public safety that are outside of the city's jurisdiction, including immigration policy and enforcement. But we will continue to focus on public safety and ensuring a safe and vibrant community. What's your reaction, sir?
I say prove it. Prove it. Let your local law enforcement and your state law, let the state law enforcement, mostly her local law enforcement, let them walk side by side with ICE and Border Patrol as they focus on criminal aliens in her city. I mean, as a mayor, her number one responsibility is protection of her communities and to lower the crime. President Trump, under President Trump's leadership, we've already dropped crime in a lot of these major cities because of the actions of ICE out there. We're concentrating on the worst of the worst. So, put your actions where your words are. Put your officers out there shoulder to shoulder. We're not asking them to be immigration officers. We're asking them to help us locate and remove illegal aliens who are public safety threats in our city.
And, Tom, we have talked over the course of the years about known gotaways. This illegal alien criminal, Oscar Solorzano, apparently deported twice, came back a third time as a gotaway with more than 2 million known gotaways in the country. This is exactly the sort of thing we worried about. And it's remarkable. Solorzano had a prior conviction for robbery and then additional arrests for aggravated battery here in the U.S., and yet he's here. How imperative is it now that your men and women of ICE and Border Patrol continue to try and find not only the ones we know about, but the known gotaways that pose this type of threat?
Well, thank God President Trump's in the Oval Office, because when we came in, we knew there's over 600,000 illegal aliens with a criminal record walking the streets of this country. And you're right, Griff, over 2 million known gotaways. These are more than 2 million people who crossed the border under Joe Biden and got away. They weren't fingerprinted. They weren't vetted. They paid more to get away. They didn't just turn themselves in the Border Patrol, get a free airline ticket to a city and get a free hotel room and free medical care. They paid more to get away. And why is that? Because they didn't want to be fingerprinted. They didn't want to be invited because they're gang members. They're criminal aliens, could be from a terrorist sponsored country. So over 2 million. So this is what President Trump's committed to. We're working with ICE and DOJ to locate every one of these criminals and remove from this country. That would not have happened if Joe Biden or Kamala Harris was president. President Trump's a game changer. And like I said before, over a couple 100,000 criminal aliens have already been removed, and we're just getting started.
Tom, some of the most innocent victims of the Biden border crisis are the unaccompanied children. The some 300,000 that were either lost by the Biden administration or were placed with unvetted sponsors. You have an update on this administration's effort to try and rescue those children. What can you tell us?
Over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country under Joe Biden. They released them to unvetted sponsors. They lost track of 300,000. President Trump committed on day one that we will do everything we can to find every one of these children. We know many are in sex trafficking, many are in forced labor, many are being abused. I look at the numbers every day. On Friday, I looked at the numbers. There's over 62,000 children found by the Trump administration children that weren't even being looked for under the Biden administration. President Trump saved over 62,000 children's lives. Some of these children were in sex trafficking, we found them. Some were in forced labor. Some were being mistreated. I can't even discuss some of the mistreatment we found out about. President Trump, again, proves why he's the greatest president in my lifetime. Over 62,000 children rescued by President Trump. Again, children that were ignored and weren't being looked for under President Biden.
62,000. That is a news-breaking number right there. I know you continue. And, you know, when we talk about this, Tom, and you and I have talked off camera about this, some of the most painful experiences I had on the border was when these smugglers, these cartels would just drop children 3, 4, 5 years old on the other side of the border with nothing other than a name and a phone number written on a piece of paper stuck to these unaccompanied children. Here's a flashback of one of those moments down in Mission, Texas in March of 2023. We've just rolled up on migrants that have crossed the river and given themselves up. A woman found a young child by himself, the cord around his neck, instructing the border officials to send him to Louisiana. The child will get special attention as they try and figure out who he is. It's just heartbreaking to see that. And this is Texas DPS Sergeant Lupe Casares that had to then try and figure out what to do with this poor child who had no idea where he was or where he would end up. Tom, this is so important.
Well, look, bottom line is, under Joe Biden, the Democrats want to attack President Trump every day. Every day they're attacking President Trump. They are complicit. For 4 years, this has happened. Sex trafficking, historic highs. Children crossing the border, historic highs. Migrant deaths crossing the border, historic highs. 250,000 Americans dead from fentanyl under Joe Biden because of that open border. Like or love President Trump, you got to admit, this man has shown every day he's saving America. Because of his actions on the border, we have the most secure border in history of this nation. Secure border ever. Lowest number of crossings in history. And you know, defying 64,000 missing children. 0 releases in 7 months. Because of that secure border, less fentanyl is coming across to kill Americans, less migrants are dying making that journey. President Trump saving America one day at a time, and I'm just proud to be a part of his administration.
62,000 rescued children, proving that a secure border is actually a safer border. Border Czar Tom Homan, thank you for taking time.
All right. You got it. Thanks for having me.
So, you know, I bring that up because we're talking about the justice system and how somebody else was knifed this weekend in Charlotte, and of course that's where that woman was killed on the bus, and I'm forgetting her name right now. Forgive me, but you know, so that exposure of the Justice Department and the exposure of these Democrat senators not letting any Republican judgeships in their state, this is all bubbling up, folks. It's all bubbling up. It's all coming to the surface because we haven't paid attention to it. Everyone says, I need this to be done. I want this to be done. And I get it. It's a frustration. But the bottom line is that we are responsible for this because we haven't been paying attention to the judges. We haven't been paying attention to the judicial system. And so how are we going to pay attention to that? Well, by seeing that they aren't doing the job they're supposed to be doing. And this has to be at the level, if you will, similar to the border crossing. Like the border crossing was a problem under Obama. It wasn't a problem under Trump. Remember that couple I interviewed down at Eagle Pass, the elderly Mexican-American couple. They sit up on the hill and they overlook Eagle Pass. So they sit at night, you know, out in their yard and they, you know, have a barbecue or have a drink and they can see people just streaming across. And they said thousands a day under Obama. Then it went to hundreds a day under President Trump in his first term. Then it went back to even more under Biden, more than just thousands and thousands every day. They're watching the whole thing. And I interviewed them at Eagle Pass. So we need to see the judiciary collapse at the level that we saw the border. At the level that we saw allowing boys to play in women's sports, at the level we saw allowing them to use the same locker room, the same bathroom. The world needs to wake up to these atrocities and not just wake up to the absurdity of it all. The migration that we're seeing in Europe and how Europe has fallen. We need to see it. We need to be pushed to the precipice. And that's what this is all about. That's what this show is all about. So that's why, as these, people are being let back out onto the street, we are seeing other people like Tina Peters in this story. MJ Truth Ultra shared this. Her attorney, Peter Tickton, wrote a letter to President Trump. Dear Mr. President, I know you're aware that Tina Peters is a 70-year-old Gold Star mother and that her trial was a travesty, where she was not permitted to raise her defenses. Where else have we heard that? We heard that with the J6ers. And there was whole hours and hours of video that were not allowed to be seen in court. I could go on as to her character, but I prefer to take this opportunity to explain why Tina Peters is a critical and necessary witness to the most serious crime perpetuated against the United States in history. They stole our whole country for 4 years. Now, the thing I love about this letter is he's not just asking President Trump to release Tina Peters because she's innocent of any crime. The crime was exposing the crime in her case. The thing I love about this is that he's flat out saying that she is an absolutely critical witness in the stealing of the 2020 election. Dominion and its employees operated an illegal operation on our soil. We're also finding out about the Smartmatic control by Venezuela. We're going to learn much more about that. Even by Maduro has already told us, which was supported and controlled by foreign actors. The Colorado Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, aided and abetted Dominion and foreign countries in targeting Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters. First, Dominion directed Ms. Griswold to assist in deleting all data from Dominion brand election equipment by ordering a statewide trusted build. Secondly, Dominion demanded criminal charges be brought against Clerk Peters when it discovered that she had the only copy of the 2020 election conducted on Dominion brand equipment. Clerk Peters' copy of data was lawful, and she was entitled to image and preserve the 2020 election data pursuant to the contract Dominion signed with her as the clerk of Mesa County. Moreover, Clerk Peters was required to preserve the evidence of the election for 22 months pursuant to federal law 52 USC 2071. 701. Clerk Peters' lone copy of the Colorado 2020 election is essential. Moreover, as is explained below, regarding current investigations, Clerk Peters is a necessary and material witness. She can testify as to chain of custody, corroborate recent responses to search warrants, etc. Okay, so that's the gist of that by the lovely, fabulous Tina Peters, who stood up for what was right in this country. And I thank you, Tina. We all love you here at this show, and I know many other patriots around the world are just so grateful for your courage. And now we need to see courage and action on behalf of her by this president, he's already trying, but also understand that by sending letters to Colorado, to the people involved in this, that he is exposing their level of, criminality that they're displaying by simply, jailing this one person that should not be in, behind bars. Okay. I want to share this of James O'Keefe, speaking of election interference. This is what's happening now this is what's been happening in Minnesota as well. So let me share this with you.
James O'Keefe here in downtown Minneapolis at the scene of the crime. The person you're about to meet, Liban Mohammed, aka King Liban 1, boasts about the hundreds of absentee ballots in his car.
Numbers don't lie. Wajida gaarigayga waa buuxaa. Waxaas waa absent ballot salka yaala. Soo ma jeedin. Fiiri, waxaas oo dhan soo ma jeedin. Waa buuxaa gaarigayga. Waa buuxaa yaala.
By the way, you'll remember that I covered this as it was happening when Veritas first broke this.
Isku waa Jamal Usman way. Fiiri. 300 clear months soo dhacday oo Jamal Usman. Yeah.
There was video. You can see the video. There was a video out and about that he has the ballots in his car.
Right.
And talking about the only way you can win is with money. I was looking at them and they were not filled. They were blank.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots? People who work with, like Ilhan Omar. Where do they pay the money? The minute we sign the thing, the election, that's what you can pay.
Money is everything. Money is the key in this world. If you ain't got money, you should not be here, period.
At the end of this street,
Yes.
there's 3 towers called one tower.
Okay.
And it's all seniors, and they took every ballot.
Every ballot. They just take
Every
them from
single
them.
ballot. They knock on the door and say, your ballots, come give it to me, give it to me.
They don't even pay them for it. They just take it.
No. And the ones that didn't vote on ballots, the young people and the women and stuff, they were paying cash. They were getting bags of money the last time we were here to drive people. So there's a vested interest, but we are victims of the system. They don't give a shit about any Somali.
2 in the morning, still hustling.
Who is the one filling out the absentee ballots? People who work with, like Ilhan Omar and other candidates who work for them. They came to us to our apartments. They tell us that this year you're going to go for it. You don't go nowhere, you stay home, we will come and fill out for your absentee ballot. When it comes, we'll come and get it. You just go nowhere, you stay here. They fill it for us.
So Project Veritas, that was, during when this was all going down. So this is how long they've had this information, not just about Minnesota, but other states as well. Gusto, you asked about Alina Habas leaving, good or bad? Good, and I'll tell you why. As Pete says, she's still working for Trump. So what's happened is that she is working as a just one of the attorneys working for Pam Bondi, and so she resigned from New Jersey Attorney General, and she's now working with Bondi. But she resigned because they're trying to kick her out. They're trying to get rid of her. And so what this is going to do is expose that operation and expose that illegality in the judicial system as well. So there's many prongs to this, awareness that's happening through the corruption in the judiciary. And certainly it can't happen fast enough, but also it's important to understand that, you know, we just need to be patient. Yeah. So that's kind of the corruption, kind of the election. This is. I want to take us into the Q&A at the White House of the roundtable, and this was cut by Joe Rambo here, and it's a good.
It's not related to farming, but if you'll entertain, I'm Kara from Lindell TV, Kara Cashnova, and I'm not fake news, just so you know. And everybody's talking about the pipe bomber over the weekend, the suspect that was taken into custody. I report.
If you had trouble hearing that, she basically said, I couldn't hear what organization she was with, but she said, so I'm not fake news, just so you know, because, you know, President Trump's calling out ABC. He called out ABC today, you know, and I can show you that as well. So
That was taken into custody. I reported on Biden's kangaroo court for 4 years. And this is an important question to me. Everyone knows that J6 was a Fed's direction to set you and your supporters up. So my question is, what's your gut instinct about the new pipe bomber suspect taken into custody? Does your instinct tell you that he acted alone? And also, Mr. President, how do you feel about the lead prosecutor on the pipe bomber case? Jocelyn Ballantine is the same prosecutor that allegedly asked the J6er to lie to frame you for J6 when you did nothing wrong. What are your thoughts?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that question. It's sort of a statement, and I appreciate it very much. Jocelyn is being looked at. They all have to be looked at.
This is the prosecutor now for the pipe bomber. So he's saying Jocelyn has to be looked at. I showed you who she was earlier.
Jocelyn is being looked at. They all have to be looked at. What they're doing is so bad. This was a whole Democrat hoax. The whole thing was a Democrat hoax, and it's all being looked at. I appreciate that.
It's not related to farming, but if you'll entertain, I'm Kara from Lindell TV, Kara Cashnova, and I'm not fake news, just so you know.
Yeah, I still couldn't catch where she's from, but this was in the Q&A portion after he made the announcement of $12 billion to our farmers, and how, you know, we need to support our farmers. And this is here we go. So let me shift gears. I want to share this with you. This is from Marco Rubio. This was December 4th, but Matt Gaetz shared it this weekend. How about just no foreign aid while we're 37 trillion in debt? But one of the benefits that they're doing is they're looking to give the money not to NGOs at all.
The United States has spent billions of dollars over the years in helping with health strategies all across the world. What we learned over time, and especially after coming here, is that oftentimes, and I'm oversimplifying it, but this is an accurate description. What would happen is we would go to a country and say, we're going to help you with our healthcare needs. Then we would drive over to Northern Virginia somewhere, find an NGO, one of these organizations, give them all the money, tell them, go to this country and do their healthcare program for them. That NGO would then take about, some percentage of that money for their overhead and administrative costs. And by the time it got down to it, the host country had very little influence. It was sort of imposed on them. And only a percentage of the overall money ever actually reached the patients and the people on the ground that we were trying to help because of these costs. This makes no sense. So why are we hiring American and international NGOs to go into other countries and run healthcare systems that are parallel and sometimes in conflict with the healthcare systems of the host country? If we're trying to help countries, help the country. Don't help the NGO to go in and find a new line of business. And so that's what the model that we're breaking. We're not doing this anymore. We are not going to spend billions of dollars funding the NGO industrial complex while close and important partners like Kenya are either have no role to play or have very little influence over how healthcare money is being spent. Bottom line is, if you want to help a country, work with that country.
Yeah. So this is the Doge exposure, right, of the NGOs that happened, that they're going to be shifting away from. I want to shift to the following, which is the Ukraine Russian war. So what's happening with that is today Zelensky met with leaders in the UK. He met with England, France, and Germany, and what I showed you on the last show is about how Europe does not want this war to end because they don't want the US to have access to what it is Ukraine is doing, especially amidst all the corruption, because all the corruption that is happening in Ukraine is going to be exposed quite significantly. And they can't have that because it'll lead them back to the same. And that's not good. So let me take you to the Zelensky. Well, I really don't have to show you much on that because we already know that for the most part. But I do want to take you to what President Trump said today about Europe and about the problem that is happening there, and as well as with this war. Got a lot of bookmarks for you, and I'm trying to find that particular one here. And not popping up. Bear with me here. Okay. All right. Come on. I'm going to go to what he had to say about Obamacare and the insurance situation. Maybe I'll have to do that first before we get into Europe. Oh, here it is. Okay. Here we go.
Look, Europe has to be very careful. We're doing a lot of things. We want to keep Europe. Europe is going in some bad directions. It's very bad for the people. We don't want Europe to change so much. You're going in some very bad directions. That was a big thing. Look.
So right now, he's aware that Europe is trying to sue Elon Musk for $180 million. He's aware that Europe is getting in the way of the peace plan that President Trump and his team put together for the Ukraine-Russian end of the war. He wants to stop seeing people die, which he, talked about again today. How can you be mad at a guy that just doesn't want to see any more people die, whether it be in Ukraine, in Russia, or whether it be in Cambodia, Thailand, whether it be, which there was significant fighting today from Thailand, I believe, into Cambodia, missiles sent. So that peace negotiation is in jeopardy. But nor does he want to see Americans die on city streets, and he doesn't want to see Europeans die with what's happened with the Europe invasion by the globalists of third world countries that don't assimilate, don't really connect. And okay. So that's very, very much, this is the migrant replacement that's happening right now in Europe. And so President Trump's very aware of that. And he's also very aware of the EU and NATO's, plan to not allow peace between Ukraine and Russia. This is 1961 London, 97.7% white population, 2.3% ethnic minority non-white. 1971, ethnic minority non-white grew to 7.4. 1981, now we've got 6.3% Asian and then 1.2% other. 91, see how it grows. 2001, continuing to grow. The white British population percent declining significantly. 2011, down to less than half. 2021, now at 36.8%. I mean, how do you justify such a thing? How do you keep your culture? How do you keep your country intact with that level of invasion going on? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And fortunately for us, Elon Musk is really on this subject quite significantly, and he reposted that today. So that was seen by many. And on that subject of the whites, not just in Europe, but in the West in general, because obviously they've done the same thing here. Let me share this with you. And Elon Musk also shared this out today. Here we go.
Why don't schools teach the role the British and the United States of America played in ending slavery? Every school teaches about the transatlantic slave trade, but they don't teach about the trans-Saharan, the trans-Indian, and the Ottoman slave trade. And the trans-Saharan slave trade lasted for over 1,000 years, enslaved 9 to 17 million people, and didn't fully end until 1981. The trans-Indian slave trade lasted for over 1,000 years, enslaved 4 to 10 million people, and ended in 1897. The Ottoman slave trade lasted for 600 years and didn't end until 1924, with 5 to 10 million people being enslaved. But the transatlantic slave trade only lasted for 400 years and ended in 1888, which means it ended well before the other three slave trades, because Thomas Jefferson banned the transatlantic slave trade in 1807, the same year that the British banned the transatlantic slave trade. And Britain didn't just ban slavery, they put together an elite fighting force for the purpose of ending the practice altogether. The elite naval force patrolled the coast of West Africa for 5 decades, capturing 1,600 slave ships and freeing 200,000 people. And the UK and Europe were early in abolishing slavery, as was South America, as was the United States of America, but it continued in the Middle East deep into the 20th century. In China and Thailand to the 20th century, in Africa to the 20th century. And the trans-Indian, sub-Saharan, and Ottoman slave trades would all collapse under pressure from the British Empire and other European powers, as the United States and especially Britain put immense pressure on other world powers to end the practice of slavery. Without Western diplomatic and naval intervention, these trades likely would have persisted well into the 20th century, because slavery was deeply entrenched in the societies of North Africa, the Middle East, and the Indian Ocean world. And the people in the United States, the people in Britain, the people in the West should be immensely proud of this achievement. Slavery was a dreadful institution that had been around for thousands of years, practiced everywhere in the world. But from John Locke to Thomas Jefferson, the ideals of individual liberty spread around the world like wildfire. And this is what makes Western culture exceptional. And our children should be taught to be proud of that. But history in school is taught through a Marxist lens, and they teach our kids to be ashamed of our history. And we can do so much better. So check out the courses I teach, my private homeschool community, and my books on what it means to be free. ClassicalLearner.com. Why don't
Yeah, I like this guy, ClassicalLearner.com. He's got some great children's books. And this was reposted by Elon Musk today. And so how about we start to celebrate the white man? We want to tear down Thomas Jefferson statues. The left does, because he was a slave owner. Meanwhile, he was a part of abolishing slavery. So this is important both in Europe and it's important in the United States, because the white man has brought civilization forward by stopping this slavery. So back to Europe and Zelensky. A Muse posted. This is a Muse I recommend to follow if you're on X. Okay, at a Muse. After years defending Zelensky and opposing audits, the New York Times now admits billions in aid were stolen by his inner circle. Democrats blocked oversight. The corruption is finally undeniable. The only question is, where is all of the money? Okay. New York Times reports Zelensky looted billions in aid while Dems fought all over oversight. And so I reposted this today, and I said, where'd it go? Hold on. Sorry. And I simply said that, assuming that the New York Times didn't know this whole time they gaslit us on Zelensky, is how the legacy media continues to lie to us on a daily basis. Now, the reason why I came up with the name, The Indoctrination, of the show is because we're shattering the indoctrination. We're exposing the indoctrination of society. And part of that indoctrination is that we're still, pining over Walter Cronkite or Dan Rather or some of the old Peter Jennings and some of the old newscasters that lied to us for decades and decades and decades. As part of, Project Mockingbird, whose intention it was to lie to us, to discourage us from seeking other sources of information. All right. And so, this information, it's being censored as we speak. And they're trying to stop Elon Musk and X, because X is got some tremendous free speech right now. They fined him 120 million. X became more popular, and then X became the #1 news app in every EU country. Okay. So this is happening. The question is this a white hat script? Because it certainly sounds like it. It certainly has that, air about it. And so this is very interesting. Speaking of freedom of speech, this is Ursula von der Leyen, who President Trump has been very, respectful towards and said very nice things about. But here's literally her speaking about free speech in the EU while somebody's free speech is taken away from them. Check this out.
Thank you very much for receiving me. And first of all, to those who scream and yell here so loud, they can be happy that they are in a free country like Finland, where the free speech is a right, where they have not any restrictions. If they would be in Moscow, they would be in jail in 2 minutes. Thank God we have a democracy. Thank God we have free speech. We can do things.
Folks, you can't make this shit up. I mean, come on. And I said, this is why the EU must fall. Look at the wealth transfer from Deutschmarks to euro when they sold Europe that piece of shit. Do you know people, let's say they had $1 million in Deutschmarks. When they took over the EU, they lost 30% of their value of their money. Somewhere in that ballpark. It was enormous. It was unbelievable. And I had a friend in Germany, and they accepted it. It was because it was, they were doing something bigger, more important. They were forming the EU, and they thought that would be some wonderful thing that occurred. And nothing could be, farther from the truth. And then X is fighting back because what's funny is that the EU was advertising on X, and after the EU is finding them 140 million, the ex-head of project just terminated the EU's ad account. It seems you believe the rules should not apply to your account. Your ad account has been terminated, and this is the story. Okay. European Commission, today we fined X for non-compliance with transparency obligations under the DSA. We're holding X accountable for deceptive design of its blue check mark, et cetera, et cetera. And Nikita Bier said, the irony of your announcement, you logged into your dormant ad account to take advantage of an exploit in our ad composer to post a link that deceives users into thinking it's a video and to artificially increase its reach. As you may be aware, X believes everyone should have an equal voice on our platform. However, it seems you believe that the rules should not apply to your account. Your ad account has been terminated. How about that? Okay. So there you go. This is what's going on. And they're fighting back and gaining more viewers, right? So very, very interesting. I want to play this for you because this is really important in the whole scheme of things regarding J6, regarding the deep state, regarding the corruption. Let me play this for you.
Being persecuted, no one else. It's being charged or persecuted. It's very easy. I called the FBI to report Bill Barr and Armstrong Williams. I have notes of every single meeting. One meeting can be about visa for someone, or another meeting can be about January 6th or RICO case. I have a quote here that was like, Barr believes the FBI will go to Trump House soon. And one thing that I heard a lot is like how they go to prevent America to have Trump again. One thing that I learned very fast and very in the beginning is like Bill Barr is someone extremely important. And I remember the biggest conversation they had at that point, it is like, what kind of charge that we can bring against Trump? And that's when Bill Barr, and I will never forget that, Bill Barr was like, we should bring RICO because it's a very difficult type of charge to defend. Armstrong has this powerful friends. He's friends with like Bill Barr, he's friends with Ben Carson, he's friend with the mayor of DC, and he has like all this list of powerful people and people like with a lot of money. I know they do some business together. All the time Armstrong needs something, he calls Bill Barr. Like can be, for example, approve a visa for someone, he calls Bill Barr. Or for example, do some kind of lobbying with, for example, Turkish Airlines, he calls Bill Barr. Bill Barr is like the person that we call to resolve any kind of problems or situations. I have notes of every single meeting. One meeting can be about visa for someone, or another meeting can be about January 6th or RICO case. In February 27 of 2023, here's my notes. They launched this meeting about RICO case. I do not know if they have meetings before about that. That was the first time that I heard and I learned about that. So they bring that case against Trump, and I remember the biggest conversation they had at that point. It is like, what kind of charge that we can bring against Trump? And they discussed like few charges under American law, and that's when Bill Barr, and I will never forget that, Bill Barr was like, we should bring RICO because it's a very difficult type of charge to defend. Bill Barr was like very focused and bring the RICO case because he explained to Fannie Willis, the RICO charge is one of the most hard to defend in court because under the American law, the RICO charge can be anything. Like it's not very specific. So people who is charged with RICO case, they have a very hard time to defend themselves. We had this meeting with Fannie Willis. At that point, I didn't have idea about her, what she worked with. I just don't know her. And she presented herself as like someone who's close to Armstrong, someone who's attorney. And all the time I was like, okay, it's just like one more meeting that we had. And then in these meetings, that's when I started to take notes and like try to keep everything that to prove that what's going on. One thing that I understood very well is like Bill Barr and Armstrong and all the politicians too, they're very focused like in how they go to stop Trump. And one thing that I heard a lot is like how they go to prevent America to have Trump again. So in my views of politics, what I think it is, they probably realized very soon that if Trump runs again, he probably will win the election as he did. So in that point, they just want to like prevent that. One of these meetings, for example, was launched in March 15 of 2022. And this meeting was at Sinclair Broadcast. And in this meeting was when I like started to learn more about Fannie Willis and about some guy called Jack Smith and about investigation involving January 6th. I have a quote here that was like, Barr believes the FBI will raise, and I put it in parentheses, go to Trump House soon. That's when was like, I start to learn and to be sure about what they're doing. Was like they're planning and they create crimes and situations to go after everyone. In that meeting, we also spoke about the meeting that we had with Facebook, and the person in Facebook was helping us and giving us direction to create content against Trump and against the January 6th was called Daniele.
So I'm not going to show all this, but this was a while back. But this was this is the kind of stuff that's going to come forward, especially regarding Barr and why we didn't see more happening. And the one who shared this Project Veritas was Real Robert, and he basically speaks to the fact that Barr outdid Eric Holder, Jeff Sessions, and Merrick Garland combined. But we also see that Sessions was doing what he was supposed to be doing, whereas it seems that Barr, how many of these people are, Marjorie Taylor Greene, President Trump was still very critical of her today after her interview with 60 Minutes. But you have Jeff Sessions, who we saw doing negative things against Trump. But Q has told us to, hang in there with Sessions. We've seen the same thing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. President Trump today said, was it today or yesterday? Let me pull that up for you. About Marjorie Taylor Brown, because he calls her brown because when things rot, they turn from green to brown. And let's see. I know it was today because 60 Minutes was last night, her interview with that. Did anybody see that? And what were your thoughts on that? But here's Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was, she was pro-Q, she was pro-MAGA. And so many think that, this may just be, kayfabe, where they're, it brings a lot of attention to her. It brings a lot of attention to President Trump, and it brings a lot of attention to the things that they're fighting over. Let me see. Why am I having trouble finding that? Here it is. The only reason Marjorie Trader Brown, Green turns brown under stress, went bad is that she was jilted by the President of the United States. Certainly not the first time she has been jilted. Too much work, not enough time, and her ideas are now really bad. She sort of reminds me of a rotten apple. Marjorie is not America First or MAGA. Meanwhile, during the interview, she said, "I'm not MAGA because that's Trump's thing. I am America First." Because nobody could have changed her views so fast, and her new views are those of a very dumb person. That was proven last night when washed-up Trump-hating 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl, who still owes me an apology from when she attacked me on the show with serious conviction. Remember, she was just asking nasty questions. That Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was produced by Russia, and she still said that happened, not Hunter himself. Totally proven wrong. Interviewed by a poorly prepared traitor who, in her confusion, made many, many really stupid statements. My real problem with the show, however, wasn't the low IQ traitor. It was that the new ownership of 60 Minutes, Paramount, would allow a show like this to air. They are no better than the old ownership, who just paid me millions of dollars for fake reporting. That would be ABC. About your favorite president. Me, since they brought it, 60 Minutes has actually gotten worse. Oh well, far worse things can happen. P.S. I hereby demand a complete and total apology, though far too late to be meaningful, from Leslie Stahl in 60 Minutes for her own incorrect and libelous statements about Hunter's laptop. President DJT. So a lot of things in there, right? There's the takeover by Paramount. There's the bad reporting on Hunter's laptop. There's people that have turned against President Trump, et cetera, right? So very interesting to see all that unfold. Now, President Trump has been posting just one after another, okay? So I want to take you to a few that are significant. Okay, first one. This was today at 5:55 p.m. Mexico continues to violate our comprehensive water treaty, and this violation is seriously hurting our beautiful Texas crops and livestock. Again, he's going to bat today for the farmers with the $12 billion package, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saying that we need to take atrazine out of our pesticides, out of our off our food and out of our water supply that it drains into. And now this, Mexico still owes the U.S. over 800,000 acre feet of water for failing to comply with our treaty over the past 5 years. The U.S. needs Mexico to release 200,000 acre feet of water before December 31st, and the rest must come soon after. As of now, Mexico is not responding, and it is very unfair to our U.S. farmers who deserve this much needed water. That is why I've authorized documentation to impose a 5% tariff on Mexico if this water isn't released immediately. The longer Mexico takes to release the water, the more our farmers are hurt. Mexico has an obligation to fix this now. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, if you remember, President Trump, this is what I was reading to you. I'm sorry I didn't have that up on the screen. But President Trump doesn't have a great relationship with Sheinbaum because I showed you last week that she came out in support of Venezuela and against the aggression by President Trump regarding Venezuela. Why? Because she has drug dealers and cartels in Mexico, and she's seeing how he's dealing with the drug dealers and the cartels in Venezuela. And he's even said that he would not be opposed to going into the mainland. And I believe that's what's going to happen with Mexico. And that's what she's trying to prevent. Because if he goes into Mexico, man, not only are they going to stop the cartels, but they're also going to find out who was aiding and abetting the cartels in trafficking drugs and humans across the border into the United States. And that's going to be part of all this exposure. Now, I took the capital letter count from this because I had a feeling he was trying to tell us more than what meets the eye. And in the capital letter count that I used on Snedheads on the Q Research link is so it's 78. So we go to 78 and we see disinformation is real, distractions are necessary, Saudi Arabia is the primary, which has already happened, the purge that President Trump helped with the National Guard and Marines. U.S. is secondary. So we're next, folks. Okay. Understand that even though it's taken a lot of time, we are next. Asia, then the EU. Alice in Wonderland, Q. What was POTUS's last tweet prior to? To who was it addressed? When was POTUS's Twitter taken down? Why is this relevant? What was POTUS's last tweet prior to? Who was it addressed to specifically? When was POTUS's Twitter taken down? Has this ever happened before? Why now? Coincidence? Well, if you remember, his last post on Twitter was the video to the insurrectionists telling them to go home and to stand down and to go home. He stopped that from happening. He took action to stop that from continuing. This is his greatest defense for anybody that thinks that he sparked that insurrection on January 6th. Also, what we saw was the BBC and how they edited his speech to make it look like we're going to go up there to fight, when in actuality, they spliced it together to manipulate his words. So these things are coming out. The pipe bomber, which he, the FBI, they're saying, well, why did it take, 5 years to catch the pipe bomber? The FBI, 5 years. Well, it's only been Trump's FBI for, I don't know, let's call it, once cash gets in and starts getting rolling, he really has only been there, 10 months? And they've got the pipe bomber within the first year of him being in office. So, and then Trump's Twitter account was taken down 2 days later. Now, we know, if you're an Anon, you know that was a white hat move, because they were using, hey, Jasper, go see Annie. Go on. There you go. Because what we're seeing come out about the J6 and the pipe bomber, that was, Trump's FBI, whereas Obama's FBI had no interest. Why? Why would Obama have no interest? Because it was a Democrat hoax. The whole thing. The Democrats set that up. Pelosi set that up. Okay. How many times did the attack occur? Secondary cleanup? What is the purpose of tracking? What is the purpose of disruption? Why did POTUS? Oh, they were tracking POTUS and trying to assassinate him in real time based on his location from his tweets. That's why the White Hats took him off Twitter. Why did POTUS have military guards uniform while in Hawaii? Why is this relevant? Do military guards uniform typically assist the U.S. Secret Service? No, they do not. Why is this relevant? What flying object was recently shot down? Why is this relevant? That was a rocket that was meant to take down Air Force One. How precise is geo-tracking non-public sea-level pro? That means the people like Prince Al-Walid, which they got access to his sea level when they hung him by his ankles at the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh. Why is this relevant? Alice in Wonderland. Q equals Alice. You'll soon understand the meaning behind Alice and Wonderland. Everything has meaning. God bless. In this particular context, Alice is the supercomputer that the Q team is using, that I believe is in Saudi Arabia, because that was the first side of the triangle to fall. Oh, I also want to take us to the timestamp that he did that post on, which was 5:55. I haven't done that yet, so I don't know if it's going to be a hit. But we are with you. 555. We are with you. Not too shabby, right? Okay. Now, I also want to take you to the dive that Kevin did, and this is very, very interesting. Let me do this, okay? Okay, here we go. I think this is it. No. Let me try that again. Make sure that this is that this will pop up. Okay, so this is President Trump posted here we go. He posted at 1:44 yesterday. Roger Clemens, who won 354 games, went through his own witch hunt. He was acquitted of all charges. If he doesn't get into the Hall of Fame, he should sue the hell out of Major League Baseball. President DJT. He took that down and then reposted it with acquitted being spelled correctly. Okay. Now, if you take the C, which he left out the first time, and you take the T, which he also let out the first time. Remember, spellings matter, misspellings matter. If you take C to T, it's 17 letters. Okay. So he's given us a Q shout out on this. Okay. Which is very significant. And also the difference in this was 45. Okay. And if you go to the Q drop 45, let me take you to that. Mm-hmm. We go to 45. Not only are we, taken to his first presidency, but it says follow Huma. What just broke with Huma? Why did HRC instruct Huma to do regarding classified markings? Why is this story just now coming out? What relevance does it have? Why is Donna Brazil running for cover? Was a deal granted in exchange for something? Who made the deal? Do we care about Donna or those who instructed her to violate the law? Why is this being leaked versus simply prosecuted privately? Who is attempting to change the narrative and soften the facts that are forthcoming this weekend? Now, one of the things I saw today was Washington, D.C., the chief of police resigned today, okay? And we've been told that those who resign have been forced into submission, and we're seeing a lot of resignations, including 20 Republicans that are going to announce they're not running for re-election. So Q has said, if resignation or announcement that they're not running for re-election have been put in submission, and will work for the work with Trump to get things taken care of. So, but we're also taken to Huma, follow Huma, which is Huma Abedin, right? But it's also Harvard University Muslim alumni, which was created by Prince Al-Walid at Harvard, okay, which also took us to let me see, one of Trump's posts. Here it was. Let me play this for you. This was just yesterday as well.
So bad with it's gotten so bad with the roiling scandals going on in Minnesota that he has either turned a blind eye to, or for some reason has turned a blind eye to. That even some of his allies are saying that his political career is over. Former Minnesota State Senator and political analyst in Minnesota. This is, who is this? Amber Reichgott Jung, saying he is clearly vulnerable and, in my view, is riskier than any Democratic candidate that might run. Anonymous longtime ally of Waltz's in Minnesota, a different person, said, it's clearly a real vulnerability. Even suburban dads would bring it up to me over the summer.
Which is interesting because this news of this fraud has been circling around Minnesota for a while, but it's really broken open, and we're seeing the scale of it. It's now the biggest fraud case in America. Over $1 billion. Is probably more to come, more things to come out of this as well. Was it incompetence? Was there some skimming of money off the top, and sort of putting a blind eye to it? We don't know. But the investigation is going to continue. The DOJ has promised to get to the bottom of this. But Griff, everyone's trying to wash their hands of all of this. They're going to throw the Democrats in Minnesota are throwing Tim Walz under the bus and saying that's on him. We don't know how far this goes.
Well, the question is whether or not Walz's administration was at best incompetent or at worst complicit in allowing this unprecedented fraud going on. Meanwhile, this triggered the Trump administration to go into Minnesota to go after particularly Somali illegal aliens that are protected in the sanctuary state of Minnesota, the sanctuary city of Minneapolis. Here, let me show you some of the criminals. The Somali illegal aliens have been rounded up just in the past week or so in Minnesota. And these are the people, come with me, that Governor Walz wants to defend, praising the Somali citizens. Well, let's look at them. Mohammed Syed, convictions include domestic violence, trespassing, assault on a peace officer, damaging property, and the list goes on. But there's a whole handful of them. You've got Sharif Abdi, a gang member. Convictions include fraud, vehicle theft, multiple probation violations. Osman Shadani, convicted of criminal sexual conduct with a minor aged 13 to 15. That's a child. Muhammad Ali, convictions include domestic assault, fraud, robbery, and larceny. Finally, Muhammad Omar, charged with 2 counts of domestic violence. These are not the best of the best. They are, as the Trump administration says, the worst of the worst, and yet Governor Tim Walz is defending them. Meanwhile, the deputy ICE director, Madison Sheehan, on this program yesterday says they're going to continue to go after these criminals. Watch.
We have an operation going on in Minnesota right now to specifically go after the Somalis who have broken laws in this country, who have come to this country illegally, and continue to wreak havoc on the American people. Our officers are out every day arresting gang members, murderers, and rapists, and truly the list goes on. And people like Governor Walz have let this guy run free in his state for years, and it's time that we put a stop to it. Democrats continue to choose to protect the people that are locked up in our facilities, people that have broken the laws by coming into this country and then perpetuated laws against the American people after that. Secretary Noem, President Trump have taken the handcuffs off our officers so we can put them on the criminals, but we enforce the laws that are on the books. We do not pick winners and losers. And the Democrats continue to think that the real winners are inside the fences at our ICE facilities, and that's not true. It's the American people that have been victimized by alien crime for years.
And, you know, it's Democrats who insist that these government programs that are being defrauded in Minnesota right now, that this is the lifeblood, this is the answer to everybody's problems. And then they allow this to go on, and you wind up with, this is going to actually hurt, genuinely hurt people who Democrats claim to care about.
It's such a great point, because the Democrat answer to any problem is just more money, right? So there was probably, a lot of incompetence, but also it's sort of in line with their philosophy. We must be helping people. $1 billion has been spent on them. Meanwhile, this money has been spent overseas in all kinds of, schemes, buying real estate. It's gone into terrorist hands. And we had Jack Brewer on earlier, somebody who's from Minnesota, knows it, or played in Minnesota when he was in the NFL, spent a lot of time there, has family that lives in Minnesota. He's talked about the poverty rate of, this is a lot of African Americans who live in Minneapolis, poverty rate, the education, how bad it is, and all of this money getting wasted when it could have gone to really help people. And it's absolutely shameful. And we really need to talk about, and again, this is a hot button issue, assimilation. Are there certain immigrants that are more easily assimilated because their culture and their love of this country shines through? Are there others who just see this as, a place to scam money and send it back to their home country? We have to have this conversation about assimilation and who actually wants to come to this country and make it better versus these guys that you had up on the board.
If you're coming to the country to get welfare or to commit fraud, then you're not what we're looking for.
Yeah.
You're here. We are the dumping place for bad people from other places. That's not the way it's supposed to work. If you want to come here because you love America and you want to contribute to America and contribute to the American dream, under our system, we believe that helps everyone. That's what is so magical about the American
And you can look no further than who they have chosen to represent them. Somebody who is a very ungrateful refugee to our country, Ilhan Omar, probably the most ungrateful.
Look, Governor Walz defending these violent criminal illegal aliens from Somalia really leaves you scratching your head. I'll tell
you. A couple things. One is the ICE is going after this Somalian immigrants right now in Minnesota, and this is just scratching the surface of the corruption up there. And so we're going to see a lot more of this, a lot more of the exposure, and a lot more because people, there's a couple levels of awakening that people need to go through. And that is one is that they have to understand that this forced migration or that this migration is a problem in our society. The next level of understanding that they have to reach is that this isn't by accident and this wasn't for humanitarian reasons. This was to absolutely destroy our country. And that's what's being exposed. And so that we're seeing this. So Trump whoppers, what you need to understand here is that we really don't care what you think because you don't know anything about Trump and this administration that we don't already know and that I haven't already talked about. And but you come in here disrupting this chat because obviously me and my audience disagree with your views on Trump. But you're not going to change anybody's opinion. This is not your show. This is my show. And if you continue to be disruptive in this show, then we're just going to toss you just because this is my house. And if you're being an asshole, we're just going to toss you because you don't know Q for shit. And if you did, you'd understand that this is a major, major plan that has been in operation for a very long time. So it's not this audience that doesn't know about Peter Thiel and doesn't know about Real ID and doesn't know about President Trump. And it's not this audience that doesn't know about that. We know about all that. But we know about Q, and we know that they're using all that to take out this deep state in ways that you could never do, and people like you could never even grasp how to get it done, which is why we've been controlled and we've been conditioned for as long as we have. I'm trying to be as respectful as I can, but if you continue to spew your views here that we already are well aware of, not your views, but that way of thinking, that you're not welcome here. Do you understand that? And this isn't a cult. This is my audience. Like, you don't know me at all. And if you call this a cult, you're just a jackass, because my audience is probably the smartest audience on the internet and has been for over 1,400 fucking shows. And if you've seen 1,400 shows of mine, you would understand the way that we think here and the way that we're seeing things unfold here. I'm going to give you that time. I'm going to show you that respect. The question is, are you going to show me that respect in return? Okay. Because you're not telling us anything we don't already know. Okay. But I can tell you a lot that you don't know, because I've been studying Q since day 2 in 2017. And I've done 1,400 shows, over 6,000 hours of live content on the very subject. And I was talking about this shit 7 years, 8 years, 9 years ago, because I was following Q and because we were aware of it before you were, before many people were, of what was coming down the pike. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So, yeah, Q is a bomb, military operation. Yeah, we love Q here. Half truths. Thank you. Been following Dave for 6 years. Beautiful. I guarantee you this guy hasn't been following me for 6 years, because if he did, he'd know this isn't a cult, that you guys, I tell you to do your own research. I show all my receipts. When I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. I was wrong about a post yesterday. that somebody brought to my attention, and I said, thank you for bringing that to my attention. You're absolutely right. I was wrong on this and I was wrong on that. I can't even remember the topic right now, but I say when I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have an ego that can't be wrong. Okay. And I've also talked about the different ways in which Q could fall out here. So, name one thing Q has been right about, just one thing. Are you serious? You don't know Q at all, dude. You couldn't probably give me one drop. I'll tell you what they were right about. They were right. You just want one thing, right? That Trump was going to be taken off Twitter 4 years before it happened. There you go. Trump was going to be taken off Twitter, period. Was he taken off Twitter? Yes, January 8th, 2021, over the insurrection, over January 6th. There you go. There's one. But that won't be good enough for you, will it? So it's dude, you won't be the first guy I sent packing. So don't take offense to it. I am I am so far superior to you in the knowledge of Q and this operation that I don't want you to mistake that you and I are peers. We are not. So there you go. Now, let me take you to 111, and I'm forgetting one of President Trump's drops, posts on Truth, was 111, and right now, hey Kev, if you're listening, would you please let me know how we got to 111 today? And this is very significant. And by the way, I'm sorry that video was off screen for part of it. When I try to blow up Truth onto the full screen, it doesn't work. So I have to blow it up with my mouse. And for some reason it was jumping off track. So post 111, President Trump took us to today. Important context. And this is a very important one, because the next story I'm going to take you to is you're going to be blown away. 111, November 5th, 2017. Important context. What have you learned about Huma? Now, the last post was Huma Abedin, but double meanings exist, so it's also Harvard University Muslim alumni. What organization is Huma? Which U.S. president is affiliated with Huma? Why is this relevant? Well, we know that Barack Obama was affiliated with Huma, okay? And by the way, nobody knew this in 2017, November 5th, 2017. Nobody knew this shit, okay? Also, why is this relevant? What years did this occur? Who funded on behalf of this president? Why is this relevant? What years did this occur? What just happened in Saudi Arabia? Who was arrested? Prince Al-Walid, who tried to assassinate Mohammed bin Salman in Las Vegas at the largest mass shooting in U.S. history. And he was arrested, hung by his ankles at the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh, and his funds were frozen. Okay. That's also when they got the C-level code for Twitter and knew that they were tracking President Trump's tweets in real time. Guys like @Jack, yeah, people that were invested in Twitter, like Prince Al-Walid, using the kingdom's money. Okay. And he built the building for the Harvard University Muslim alumni at Harvard. He also financed Barack Obama through his Harvard education. Why would this former president be funded pre-political days? Repeat, important. Why would this former president be funded pre-political days? Why is the relevance? I think that was a mistype. Was the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated to any of these organizations or people? Okay, now President Trump took us to this today. All right. Let me take you to one thing in the middle of this. And where is that? It should be right here. Here it is. Ron DeSantis today, effective immediately, Florida is designating the Muslim Brotherhood and the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, as a foreign terrorist organizations. Florida agencies are hereby directed to undertake all lawful measures to prevent unlawful activities by these organizations, including denying privileges or resources to anyone providing material support. Okay? Now, let me take you back to 111. Okay? Was the Muslim Brotherhood affiliated to any of these organizations' people? Yes, they were. They're affiliated with Prince Al-Walid, Harvard University Muslim alumni. That's why Harvard was kind of attacked by President Trump early on, because he was taking care of that cleanup as well. Valerie Jarrett was born in Iran. Her husband, her father-in-law, Vernon Jarrett, was partners with Oscar Brown Jr., who wrote the song in 1963 called "The Snake," which was repeated by President Trump multiple times under the guise of immigration, but he was pointing us to the snake being Barack Hussein Obama. Okay? It gets better. This connection. Why are the events in Saudi Arabia so important? Well, I showed you another post that he took us to that said Saudi Arabia first. That happened in October of 2017, right before Q started posting as anonymous, using President Trump helping with the National Guard and Marines to make all those arrests in Saudi Arabia, 270 odd people. Why was Jared Kushner in Saudi Arabia recently? That was part of this whole thing. Why was POTUS's last tweet regarding Saudi Arabia prior to the happening? Why was POTUS's Twitter taken down days before under cover of a rogue employee? Because that happened before the final takedown as well. Refocus again. Who was arrested in Saudi Arabia? Any ownership stakes in U.S. companies? Twitter. Why is this relevant? Twitter. Las Vegas. Recent events. Why would investment be made in a former president pre-political days? He was the Manchurian candidate, as we all know. What years did this occur? What faith does Huma represent? Muslim. What faith does the Muslim Brotherhood represent? Do you think it's an accident President Trump took us to this drop and Ron DeSantis makes Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization? As a state, President Trump has already done it federally. He does it as a state, which means all the state's employees and personnel will now assist the feds in treating the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. This is huge. What faith does Huma represent? That's Huma Abedin. Okay? Because like Valerie Jarrett was the Muslim Brotherhood into the Obama administration. John Brennan was the Muslim Brotherhood plant, which President Trump brought up yesterday. Okay, in the intelligence agencies. Okay, and I'll take you to that post as well. And Huma Abedin was the Muslim Brotherhood plant into the Clinton camp. Okay, and so that's why the Q is doubling up here on the on Huma. Okay, and I think it's right about here. No. Yep, I missed it. I'll come back to it. Here we go. Have you guys been getting double posts on X? Here it is. 2 days ago, it was on Saturday. Open Substack. Will John Brennan finally get his just desserts? President Trump reposted this. Look, he's wearing the communist uniform. What took them so long? My first reaction, my second, finally, my third, will it hold? All this was within seconds, but I've been wishing Brennan would get his for some time. For me, he is the epitome of political evil in this country. From Fox's reporting in a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi Tuesday, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan referred former CIA Director John Brennan to the Justice Department for allegedly making false statements to Congress. Okay, so this gets into it significantly. So I recommend you go to President Trump's. Let me take you to this. Not too many people knew about him even then, but Brennan clearly did, talking about Obama. Okay. He says he backed, this is actually Hall, Gus Hall. Let me just read these 3 paragraphs. Thinking back on these days, it was pretty embarrassing. We would hang out at Hayden Fonda's small cottage in Santa Monica listening to Tom pontificate, Tom Hayden. At the same time, Jane Fonda walked about with this laundry basket ostentatiously showing off her working class bona fides. Just a few years later, she was living with Ted Turner in one of the country's largest mansions with a staff of the size of a small army. Hypocrisy was always a large part of being a Hollywood leftist. Brennan was different. He was the only person I ever heard of who actually voted for the Communist Party, USA, candidate for president at the time, Gus Hall. Hall was an ultra-neo-Stalinist hardliner who despised the Hayden Fonda SDS types as softies. He frequently traveled to Moscow to receive the likes of the Brezhnev Prize from the Soviet dictator himself, and went so far as to support the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia. No action was too totalitarian, too fascist for Hall, as long as it adhered to what he regarded as strict communist principles. Not too many people knew about him even then, but Brennan clearly did. He says he backed Hall through youthful ignorance, an excuse hard to accept unless, of course, you are Barack Obama, who later made Brennan the CIA chief and had his own version of Hall in Frank Marshall Davis. Now, many believe that Frank Marshall Davis is actually Barack Obama's father. Okay. And here's why. Look how much they look alike. And Frank Marshall Davis was his mentor growing up in Hawaii, and Frank Marshall Davis and his mother, Durham, were, close acquaintances in Hawaii, and both communists. Okay. So let me take you back to that Substack. Let's see. Years later, it was said that Brennan, who spent a good deal of time in the Middle East, had converted to Islam, but it was never proven. What we do know is that Brennan was one of the 51 current past intelligence agents who signed the infamous letter claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop was likely Russian disinformation. Nearly 100% of the signatories of that letter must have known they were lying at the time, unless they were blithering idiots. So House Judiciary Committee and Jim Jordan may have the goods on Brennan lying, making false statements in the parlance to the committee regarding the even more infamous Steele dossier. Brennan asserted he never supported the dossier as evidence. Of course, documents declassified in 2025 July assert just the opposite and show the former CIA director insisting the agency used the blatant fabrication as evidence, anything to get Trump and his allies. So, and again, folks, this is not to get too much into this, but I'll repost President Trump's post on X, which will take us to Snedheads. If I can, hold on a second. I'm just going to put this Substack in the chat. Okay, so let me do that. Here we go. There we go. Okay. So, and also Brennan speaks fluent Arabic as well. It's either Arabic or Farsi. I forget which one. But so President Trump sent us to, let me take you back to this. Remember, with the 45, he sent us to 45. Okay, follow Huma, which is broke with Huma, and now he's sending us to 111. Who are the bad actors? Who funds majority of U.S. senior politicians? What faith does Huma represent? Fantasyland. Well, Saudi Arabia funded the majority of U.S. senior politicians. Was a former president of the U.S. groomed to be commander-in-chief? Is this possible? Is the U.S. political election system corrupt? So it's bringing that up now, in the matter of Tina Peters, in the matter of Venezuela and their Smartmatic control over the machines, in the matters of the J6. Okay, and the pipe bomber and all this is all coming to the surface, folks. So if you're wondering if anything's going to happen, all you have to do is see the momentum and see the trajectory of where this is headed. Who owns poll machines? Soros. Why is this relevant? They never thought she would lose. Fantasyland. The complete picture would put 99% of Americans, the world, in a hospital. POTUS is our savior. Pray. Operators are active. We are at war. Good night, Barack Obama. Snow White, Godfather 3. Okay. Now, let me take you to this. Joshua Hall, major breaking story. Barack Obama has been meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and other top allies of the United States to undermine U.S. foreign policy and the Trump administration, operating a shadow government and urging these world leaders to go through him on all foreign policy matters rather than the lawfully elected President Trump and his administration. Q talked about this, about Obama traveling ahead or behind of POTUS when POTUS first took office. And remember, Barack Obama didn't leave D.C., didn't go back to Hawaii, didn't go to Martha's Vineyard, didn't go back to his birthplace of Kenya. Okay. He moved down the street to Embassy Row, bought a house with money that he got from the publishing companies by selling his memoirs and all the corruption. That's how he bought his home on Martha's Vineyard. That's how he bought his home in D.C. That's how he's been living, on high on the hog, and also getting money from the insurance companies for the Obamacare that President Trump talked about today, about how the Democrats want their insurance companies to get all this money. And who moved in with them to that house? Iranian-born, father-in-law partners with Oscar Brown Jr., the snake, Valerie Bowman Jarrett, from the Chicago corrupt political sphere. It appears that Obama is attempting another silent soft coup to, in effect, overthrow the duly elected president of the United States. Q predicted this, by the way, and sabotage his policy agenda. The disgraced former president is reportedly also in talks with Starmer for asylum in the UK on the grounds of political persecution, with an indictment reportedly set up to be unsealed at the beginning of January in the massive grand jury investigation of him in the Southern District of Florida for his leadership role in Russiagate. Instead of laying low, Obama just continues to thumb his nose at our justice system and the rule of law by continuing to commit treasonous acts. He is an active and ongoing national security threat to the United States and flight risk. This may be the bombshell story of the year. Seize his passport and arrest Obama now. Now, Trump has been taking us to Barack Obama significantly over the past weeks and certainly over the past coming days, few days. I want to take you to my post earlier, my repost of Joshua Hall, where basically Joshua Hall also showed the video of Obama in England, and here we go. Did I share that already, or did I? No, I think I just bookmarked it. Sorry about that. Here we go. You can see I pulled quite a bit. We got to talk about SCOTUS today. And we got to talk about Israel briefly. Damn. That was Marjorie here. No, that's not it. That was Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way, talking about Q and about how significant Q is. J6, the early people that weren't dressed up as Trumpers at all. And yeah, I lost it. I'm sorry. But it was a video of Barack Obama coming out of 10 Downing Street. So my apologies for not having that at my disposal right now. Oh, I know how I can find it. I can just go to Joshua Hall's post. And, but he's got a lot going on too. Here it is. You with me? Yeah. Barack Obama spotted in London. I don't know if that was 10 Downing Street. I don't. And so, of course, I went to the post that Q back in March 9th of 2018. Q reposted a March 9th post earlier. When I'm done, it'll be like you were never even here. Okay. Then the Punisher symbol. And then when we're done, he'll claim Kenyan citizenship as a way to escape. Q. Can you imagine, my friends, when that happens, what's going to happen? It's going to be unbelievable. Okay. Let's see. Let me just get to, all right. Let's see. Yeah, let me just take care of something here. There we go. So no more Trump whoppers. He's just calling us easy marks, and he's just unfortunately a dumb fuck. And disrespectful too, because he asked me one thing that Q has done. I told him, then I just shared a couple more. And is he going to show any respect for that or any gratitude for that? No, because he's got an agenda. He's a miserable troll, and he's not welcome at my house anymore. And this is my house. And by the way, I was very flexible. I let him say a lot of things, but I just can't allow stupidity for fear that we might, some of it might wear off on us. And this isn't a guy who is asking the right questions. And he could probably put 2 of his IQs into mine. So I'm not going to deal with him anymore. So imagine when it gets to the point when Obama has to claim Kenyan citizenship. It's going to be huge. Okay. I want to take you to just real quick what's going on with here we go, with the Israel right now. Okay. Bring this back up. Here we go. And folks, if you'd like to support my work, it is greatly appreciated, as you know. And I want to do this. There we go. Okay. This week we're going with a free sweatshirt, my friends. Free sweatshirt on the wheel spin, and I'm going to have the IndoctriNATION hoodies within a couple of days ready for you. So let me play this for you real quick. This is what they have. Well, let me just let it play.
I'm so thankful to all of you that have been here, but there's somebody that I never get to be with in an event like this, my beloved wife, Carolyn. So I want you to stand, Carolyn. Carolyn is totally selfless. And when I married her, I said, I have to be honest. There's another woman in my life. She said, what? I said, Israel. I love her so much. I have to be with her a lot. She said, honey, I will let you do that. But if she ever calls me on the phone, you are dead.
Wow, really? Wow. That's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be true. And yet it's just ridiculous. This is just, they took over 100 pastors, Christian pastors, and the message is very clear. And I think I bypassed it. It was Huckabee. But the message was very clear, and that is that that we're going to, promote Israel, and that's why I've been warning you about the 501c3 Christian pastors for a very long time, because I knew that they weren't legitimately Christian, and also not legitimately America first. Here it is right here. Here's the one I wanted to show you.
This is our moment. The question is whether we will rise to the occasion. And I can tell you from leaving this room a few minutes ago, we're going to rise to the occasion. We will not let this evil win this time.
Israeli leaders encourage the pastors to be bold and express gratitude for their support.
Stand up and be counted. Tell the truth. Speak to young people. Speak up and be counted. I'm counting on you, and I know you'll do what has to be done. That's what our destiny calls for.
This is not just Israel's fight. This is a fight for civilization. We are facing very much a civilizational struggle like we saw in the 30s between Nazism and the free world. Today, that Nazism is Islamism in coordination with communism, which today's expression is called woke, but it's the same thing.
Behind the scenes, Shira Mills of the Friends of Zion Museum helped make the summit possible.
Never been done before. This is something very unique, very difficult, but here we
Very
are.
planned,
From
very
my point of
controlled.
view, it's miraculous.
The vision going forward, recruiting 10,000 more pastors in the next 36 months.
10,000.
Because there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of young people that
Talk about a
are
cult.
not for Israel, and they're just getting the wrong information. So our whole idea here is to reach the youth of America and around the world and just show the truth.
Yeah, no, that's not the truth. By the way, I did want to say that the EU is trying to fine Hungary to accept, if they don't accept migrants, the migrant invasion, they will be fined $400 million. Viktor Orban said, we will not take a single migrant in, and we will not pay for other migrants. Hungary will not implement the measures of the migration pact. The rebellion begins. Boom. That is huge. And that is very much, this is an awake person. This is Justice Kavanaugh. This is huge about the Democrats trying to hold independent organizations over the president of the United States.
Agencies are not accountable to the people. They're not elected, as Congress and the president are, and are exercising massive power over individual liberty and billion-dollar industries, whether it's the FCC or the FTC or whatever.
Thoughts on Kavanaugh's words, Jonathan?
Well, both Kavanaugh and Alito really made short work of those defending this law. They kept on presenting hypotheticals, what they called hard hypotheticals, of where does this take you? Both of them said, well, can you just go ahead and make any cabinet department an independent commission? Can you specify just one commissioner? Can you make their length in office 20 years? All of those questions left the other side floundering. The best that they could say at points was, well, if something like that happens, you could come back and look at it. Well, the justices are looking at it now. And one of the things that should be unnerving is that those justices that normally form an alliance in these cases with the left of the court were not there today. Chief Justice Roberts really stomped on Humphrey's estate and said that it was basically a desiccated or dried up precedent. Justice Barrett said these commissions don't look anything like what existed at the time of some of these earlier cases. So that's not a good omen if you want Humphrey's estate that lived in 91.
All right.
So basically, this is a shutdown of the deep state
agencies.
And their attempt to override POTUS and overrule the things that he's doing. So that was really important and really, really huge. My friends who've been on almost 2.5 hours. I'm trying to keep these shows to 2 hours, but I had a lot to catch up on from over the weekend. I'd love to take you on some more stuff, but I would say the biggest attention that President Trump took us to was Saudi Arabia promotion, if you will, not promotion, but prop up of Barack Obama, along with control over the elections to get him into office as a Manchurian candidate. Again, Frank Marshall Davis was a communist, possibly his father. Certainly looks a lot more like him than the person they tell us is his father. And he was his mentor growing up in Hawaii, and he was a communist. And Barack Obama is a communist, and he's a Muslim too. He even said that to Matt Lauer. Matt Lauer had to correct him. These CIA plants, these CIA Mockingbird Media assets are a piece of work, I tell you. But the fact that President Trump took us to two Barack Obama posts today, and this news coming out about him being in London, and he's got something to say about Ukraine, because when he was controlling the Biden actions in that faux presidency, he put Biden in charge of Ukraine. So he was getting a piece of that, and that's going to expose him as well. So he's got to make sure that the United States, they do not abide by the U.S. plan, because the U.S. will be involved in auditing the money that we've given them, because even Don Jr. said when he went to Monaco, which I've been to, it's a very, very rich place, and that 50% of all the supercars, Bugattis, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, all had Ukrainian license plates. This money has been stolen, and this has been a scam, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to get to their books, and we're going to find out how much money was flowing through FTX back into the Democrats' pockets. My friends, a lot going on this week. Please stay tuned. I'll be on tomorrow night at 8 Central Standard Time. Please join me then. Thank you for those who donated. I'll put your name on the wheel. We'll hopefully get a spin this week. Thank you, Helen Overton, for your phenomenal donation this weekend. What a blessing you are to me and in my life, and to this show, which allows me to keep everything free, everything that I do. And I love you for that. So thank you. Thank you all. Have a great night and a great tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.